Leading up to the event, the Couch Constructions event, there was already, a lot of artists that were already working on the project, and I began to feel a little bit of pressure only because we had not come up with any ideas. And I got a knock on the door from these two artists, Carmina and Kurt, who were from Transylvania University, and they were in our neighborhood looking for couches that they could photograph. You start to understand, that these folks were documenting and celebrating people's lives, right? I think they were celebrating an artifact of that family's history. So in some ways, maybe having Carmina and Kurt come visit me and see that the way they were documenting and celebrating people's lives with these couches really sort of allowed us to caveat into sort of understanding the formal and sort of more respected living room that was apparent in all of our lives. For many Latino families, especially my own, these were family treasures. They were social symbols that often represented ideas of home ownership, family culture, and of course labor. And when you see the sort of wear and tear on these couches, I think you begin to understand sort of where they fit in that timeline. For me and my two sisters, las sofás were monuments, right? And they were sort of well guarded. They were wrapped in plastic. They were off limits in some capacity, and that those sort of formal protections or physical protections would only go away to people like the Pope, maybe Jesus Christ. Joe Namath was probably another person my mom would allow to sit on these couches. When we found our way walking through the streets of downtown Chihuahua, Omar Munante and I, we stumbled upon a street, a 3-block commercial piñata district that was pretty remarkable. And the area, without a doubt, was like a hotbed to just a sophisticated piñata empowerment zone. So you'd get there on Monday and it would just be newspaper, and sort of this gray effect. But by Friday, the process was completed and the street was lit up, and it certainly, it was a different type of walk experience. So captivated by that idea of the color, the production, the purpose, the piñata, in some ways took its place as the motivation to appropriately celebrate the many stories involving, nuestras familias and the sofás in our lives. So this construction, this couched construction, needed to have the tectonics of the couch. So we started with the frame, and in order to keep it light, we used cardboard as the ribs or the structure. And really the magic behind this was the paper, which really keeps everything together. So we used a traditional mix called engrudo, included flour and lemon, some hot water, and then mixing this thing together. So Alejandra Lagunas, who was working in our office at the time, gave this thing an appropriate skin, which, again, to any good piñata, the paper skin is probably the most important. We had Diana de la Fuente helped us out with a design, and from that point it was really trying to figure out what the texture of the piñata needed to be. And every morning when we would go, we'd see either smooth, so the paper mache would be dipped and then just laid across the paper in many layers, and that would give you a very smooth texture. There was also a very sort of frill or a non-smooth texture that we decided on, and I think at the end we did a combination of some different things just to have fun with how we skin the piñata and represented different colors. Crovari and Javier Estrada, and we were all sort of sitting and talking about this couch, and really talked about what it could be. How do we show the candy, and how do we show the details of the piñata? Because typically this thing's hung, and we weren't going to hang this from a gallery, but we wanted to show the candy in a very special way. So within the group, we all decided that this rug should take some form, and that the candy would become the rug. So we left it up to again my colleague Omar Munante to figure out what the details were. We know that we wanted Mexican candy, or some candy from that would be maybe come from a Latino store, a mercado. If you look at the couch, there's like a not a tear, but like a break to make it appear as if the couch had been purposefully broken or had collapsed, towards one end of the couch, and that the candy would spill out in some sort of quick fashion, as if it's bleeding or gushing out candy that would eventually become the rug. It was a lot of fun. I didn't want us to take this too seriously, and for the office, it's important, I think, that we go through these exercises in making, and for me, get a better understanding. I think as the observer, I could walk past this enterprise zone every morning. You could see the color of the street transform. Going through this process, I think for you and for me, and even for Omar, gave us a better appreciation of sort of, what's at hand. What is the sort of mode of production, and the difference between el máquina and el mano. That making this by hand was going to be something special, and then something that we were going to learn from.